Welcome back to part two of this week's episode of Read and Read Slater Hall Sports Hour. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert. Yep, earlier in the week we brought you our NBA 2018 season preview. We're back at you today with our Week 6 NFL recap. And as always, timestamps will be in the description if you don't want to listen to the episode in its entirety, so just jump to whatever segment you want to hear. We'll start off with our game recaps and Thursday Night Football, the Eagles taking down the Giants.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley did everything he could. He had 13 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He had 9 catches for 99 yards, but he just could not carry the inept passing game of the Giants to a victory. And from the other side, Wentz was very efficient with 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Eagles' offense looked like they finally had some firepower that we saw last year.
Yep, Saquon and Wentz were the storylines on the field, both with very good games for their respective teams. Someone more off the field storyline was Odell Beckham Jr., who had a tantrum again. He left the field before the final play of the first half, went into the locker room. Pat Shurmur said he was dehydrated and went to get an IV. I'm not sure if I buy that. I think Odell was, like I said, just having another tantrum. But really, this was Carson Wentz and the Eagles facing Saquon Barkley by himself. The rest of the Giants team didn't show up. Eli Manning looked like Eli Manning has looked the past 2 or 3 seasons, not good. And then the story of this game was third downs. Philadelphia converted 9 of 16 on third downs. Giants only 4 of 14. Couldn't get anything together on offense besides Saquon Barkley, and he did his part, but Giants just didn't have enough other than Barkley to get a win over the defending world champions.
In the next game of the week, a very tough one for my co-host, Brock Osweiler-led Miami Dolphins beat the Chicago Bears 31-28 in overtime.
Yes, it's no exaggeration to say that the Chicago Bears choked this game away. Jordan Howard fumbled at the goal line at one point in the game. Dolphins ended up doing that too later in the game. Kenyon Drake almost gave the game away for the Dolphins, but that's besides the point. Trubisky missed some deep balls during the game, early in the game, late in the game. He did hit on some, but the ones he missed cost the Bears costly points. And then, of course, Cody Parkey missed the game-winning field goal in overtime that would have given the Bears the win and kept their season on a roll heading into their matchup with New England next week. And then, overall, maybe the biggest issue was the defense forgot how to tackle. Brock Osweiler and the Dolphins' offense were throwing screen passes all game long. Albert Wilson had so many yards running after the catch, it's insane. Bears just forgot how to tackle. They had one of the best passing defenses or just overall defenses in the league coming into this game, and they allowed Brock Osweiler to happen.
My only comment on this one is, contrary to our guest last week, the Bears did not have 22 players on defense this week when Brock Osweiler beat them.
22 would have helped. Khalil Mack actually did play through this game with an ankle injury. We'll see how his health impacts him moving forward. He did not have a strip sack in this game. First time as a Chicago Bear without a strip sack.
No comment from Gruden about, he had another one?
Yeah, that's the highlight of my week, hearing John Gruden make another Khalil Mack comment. So that's enough pain for one game recap. Let's move on to the next matchup. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't quite get the job done in Atlanta against the Falcons.
Yeah, Jameis looked good in his first start back. He had 395 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he also did throw 2 interceptions, but that's Jameis for you. The Falcons could not get the run game going against a terrible Buccaneers defense, and it doesn't help that Devonta Freeman just went on IR for them, so that leaves Tevin Coleman and Ito Smith in the backfield. And I don't understand it. Julio Jones still has no touchdowns on the season, 10 receptions for 143 yards again this week, still does not have a touchdown catch.
Yeah, so this is exactly the type of game you would expect between these two teams. It was a quarterback duel for sure. Both defenses have struggled thus far this season. On the Atlanta side because of injuries, and on the Tampa Bay side because they're just not good at playing defense. We mentioned the QBs, they had a big game. Also a big game for tight ends. Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, Austin Hooper all had touchdowns in this game. Didn't do much, but they got touchdowns, something Julio Jones cannot say. And then Mike Smith, after this game, was relieved of his duties as Buccaneers defensive coordinator, something that will be touched on later in the show.
Next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers pulled out a close victory against the division rival Cincinnati Bengals 28-21.
Yes, we got one of our 2 yearly matchups between these division rivals, and that means there's going to be some dirty hit or fight, something that happens between these two teams. They simply do not like each other. In this instance, it was another Vontaze Burfict hit on Antonio Brown, And as Brown was on the ground after the hit, Vontaze Burfict allegedly said to Juju Smith-Schuster, who blindsided Burfict last year, quote, "You're next." So the next matchup between these two teams should be very fun. I personally don't know how Vontaze Burfict is still playing in the NFL, how he isn't suspended indefinitely, like actually banned from the NFL, but we'll see how that goes moving forward. On a different storyline, it was another big day for Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner on the offensive side of the ball, but nonetheless, the Bengals almost had this game wrapped up, but they couldn't stop Antonio Brown 31-yard touchdown with 10 seconds remaining. Was it a pick play? Yes. Was it called? No. So the Steelers win this game.
Big plays are amazing. They never get called. My only note was the Steelers have to see now James Conner once again had a big game, and how they don't see that he's the I guess not James Conner specifically, but the running back is the motor that makes their offense go. When the running back's involved, their offense rolls. So they just need to make sure to keep the running back involved in the game, and their offense will be just fine in the come playoff time.
Yeah, and we are now into Week 7, the reported date which Le'Veon Bell would reportedly return. Le'Veon's still not back with the Steelers. Who knows when he'll be back, if he's going to wait last second like something Le'Veon might do. We'll see if he even plays for the Steelers again. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how this works out. Next game up on the slate, the Los Angeles Chargers beating down the Cleveland Browns 38-14.
I didn't have much on this game. It went about as you'd expect. Contrary to my pick last week, I did pick the Browns to win in an upset, but that didn't happen. Melvin Gordon rushed for 3 touchdowns. Tyrell Williams had 3 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Chargers just looked like the better team. Baker looked like a rookie. It went about exactly as you expect. I wrote ho-hum game, so nothing too special here.
Yeah, contrary to what the statistics show, I think Baker Mayfield's been making a lot of plays on his own. He's not getting help from his receiving core whatsoever. Jarvis Landry's his only reliable target. There's drop passes from Antonio Callaway leading to interceptions. Just the entirety of the receiving core hasn't been reliable for this rookie quarterback. Nick Chubb out of the backfield isn't getting enough carries. I know they have a running back by committee back there with Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde, but Nick Chubb is proven in limited touches to be effective on the offensive side of the ball. Hugh Jackson needs to get him more touches and in turn get a more reliable running game.
The next game on the slate, the Seattle Seahawks beat down the Oakland Raiders in London 27-3.
Yes, I think we can now declare the John Gruden-led Raiders as the NFL's worst team. They got nothing going on offense, but the problems do go well beyond John Gruden. The defense is old-looking and slow, don't get anything done pass-rushing-wise. They just released Derek Johnson, so maybe they're trying to get a little bit younger on that side of the ball. Derek Carr got nothing done. The entirety of the offense got nothing done. There's a report that they're going to try to trade Amari Cooper, looking for some draft picks to rebuild this disastrous roster. Part of that being on John Gruden for the acquisitions he made in the offseason, part of it just for the regime in place before him and currently at general manager. It's going to be another year or so before we see what the John Gruden Raiders are really all about.
Yeah, Derek Carr, I think it was amazing. He went 23 for 31 passing for only 142 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That was an average of under 5 yards per completion. And then in addition to that, he was sacked 6 times. And on the other side, Russell Wilson seems to finally have found his groove after a seemingly consistent, rough start to start about every season. 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Maybe Russell Wilson and the Seahawks are back to the Legion of Boom type team they used to be.
Yeah, I don't know quite about that, but it's certainly a prove-it team right now. Russell Wilson, can you win without the Legion of Boom, without a reliable running game, with some questionable targets? And we'll see. Maybe Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll will get enough done to be in the hunt for a wild card because they're not winning that division.
I don't think Russell Wilson has anything else he really needs to prove at this point in his career other than the fact that he can win with literally nothing around him, which I think he has already done in the past.
We'll see how the Seattle season progresses. Next game up, the Arizona Cardinals falling to the Minnesota Vikings 27-17.
Josh Rosen continues to look mediocre for the Cardinals. He can't get them on the board at times. It also doesn't help that they have issues with their offensive coordinator and head coach. I'll talk more about that later. But the Vikings on the other side finally got a running attack. Latavius Murray had 155 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And that's encouraging to see considering how poor Dalvin Cook looked earlier in the year before he got hurt. their lack of running game has really limited their offense, which is why Kirk Cousins has had to throw the ball so much. So if they could finally find a running game, that could really make them a complete team.
Yeah, it was definitely the best performance out of a running back at any point this year for the Vikings. And then Adam Thielen continues to be the best wide receiver in football this year by a wide margin. He had 11 receptions, 123 yards, another touchdown, just continues to pour in those 100-plus receiving yards games, and he actually scores touchdowns, unlike a certain Julio Jones. But, yeah, the Vikings offense was just too much to handle. Defense continues to look better, although they were going against Josh Rosen, the rookie, and a team that doesn't utilize David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald to their potential. But moving forward, Minnesota Vikings are on the uptick, and they'll need to stay that way if they want to stay competitive in the NFC North. Next game up, the Indianapolis Colts, or should I just say Andrew Luck, against the New York Jets.
I mean, Andrew Luck finally had a decent running attack this game. Marlon Mack in his second game this season due to injury, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry on 12 carries. And Andrew Luck had 301 yards with 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I know 2 of his interceptions were tipped off his own receiver's hands. So Andrew Luck is once again trying to do it all himself. And on the other side, Sam Darnold was efficient, went 24 for 30 passing, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, led that Jets offense to 42 points. So I think Sam Darnold's starting to look promising for the Jets here.
Yeah, Jets offense 2 weeks in a row got some big plays, put some points on the board, albeit against a mediocre Indianapolis Colts defense. But yet Luck, the 4 touchdowns and the 3 interceptions, we mentioned that not all those were his fault. He did throw a pick 6 on his first pass of the game, and that put the Colts down early. And with a limited supporting cast, it's tough for Luck to bring the Colts back after an early deficit.
Next game up, the Carolina Panthers shockingly fell to the Redskins 23-17 in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's been a weird year for the Washington Redskins. It was a complete 360 from how we saw them play against the Saints on Monday Night Football last week. They just dismantled this Carolina Panthers efficient offense. Josh Norman got a revenge interception against his former team and former quarterback Cam Newton. Adrian Peterson chose to be young Adrian Peterson again this week. He had 97 yards on the ground. And then on the Carolina offensive side of the ball, they were neutralized by this Washington defense. Cam played relatively well stat-wise aside from that interception, but Christian McCaffrey, quiet on the ground and through the air, didn't get anything going. Some of the receivers were quiet. Greg Olsen, in his first game back, had about 40 receiving yards, nothing big that this offense needs from him as Cam's number 1 target. But yeah, we'll see. Redskins continue to be up and down this season. If they can stay up, they could be competitive in the NFC East.
Yeah, all I had to say is Christian McCaffrey only had 8 carries this week, and no other running back had any other carries. So seems to be that the Panthers are either trailing in games or apparently starting to abandon the running game. So that's a trend we'll have to look at come the near future.
Now next, one of the sloppiest and most poorly executed games of this week 6 slate, the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans.
Deshaun Watson looked absolutely terrible for the Texans. He threw for 177 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks, but he was also sacked 7 times. They only scored 20 points against this Bills defense, but the other side, Nathan Peterman's going to be him. He threw a pick 6 with a minute and a half left. That gave the Falcons the lead, the 20-13 lead, and then he's leading them on a drive, I guess, and then throws another interception. His interception percentage right now is at 11%, so once every 10 times the ball leaves his hand on a path, it's going to the other team. So the Bills look like they're going to be starting Derek Anderson this week after Josh Allen left with a sprained elbow, and it's Derek Anderson, so it can't get much better than that for the Bills.
Yeah, Bills actually had a shot to win this game, but then Nathan Peterman happened, and he'll do Nathan Peterman things. It is actually reported with Allen out this week and the next couple weeks, if Sean McDermott were to start Nathan Peterman, he would lose the team because why would you keep starting Nathan Peterman? So it's a good move on his part to start Derek Anderson, but still, Bills are going to be picking in the top 3 of this year's NFL draft. Next game up on the slate, the Los Angeles Rams narrowly defeating the Denver Broncos 23-20 at Mile High.
Yep, Todd Gurley rushed for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, which is easily his best performance on the ground so far this season. And with that, Jared Goff didn't look especially good, but he did enough for the Rams to get the win at Mile High. And on the other side, Emmanuel Sanders continues his resurgent season with 7 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown. last year with Trevor Siemian and whatever debacle they had at quarterback. He really didn't look comfortable at all. But now this year getting Case Keenum, he's really started to have a better season.
Yeah, Sanders had a big day, but that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty proved costly for that Denver offense. Thought he scored, celebrated, but you know what? He was down. He didn't actually score, so they got pushed 15 yards back, had to end up kicking the field goal instead of having the ball at the 1-yard line. From the Los Angeles Rams defensive standpoint, it was a homecoming game for Wade Phillips. Spent many years as the Denver defensive coordinator, had great success there. His defense did just enough. He really shut down the Denver running game especially. And the Rams did just enough to stay the only undefeated team in the NFL this season.
Next game up, the Dallas Cowboys shellacked the Jacksonville Jaguars 40-7 in Jerry World this week.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened in this game. It was 40-7. The Cowboys' offense has looked mediocre all season and the past couple seasons, really. And then their offense picks apart Saxonville. They have two of the best corners in the NFL, some of the best pass rushers, just solid at every point on that defense. And the Cowboys just tore them apart. Prescott was pretty efficient. Cole Beasley was by far and away his favorite target this game with 9 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Zeke had over 100 yards and a touchdown, and Jaguars offense, again, just didn't really get anything going, and they can't use the weather as an excuse this game.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I don't really know what happened to the elite Jaguars defense. Cole Beasley had 9 catches for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns on this defense that was talking crap to the Chiefs last week, so we'll see what someone's got to change in Jacksonville if they want to try to pull out this very tight division and try to make it a playoff run like they did last year.
Another ugly game next up is the Baltimore Ravens absolutely dismantling the Tennessee Titans 21-0.
Well, dismantling is an understatement. The game was only 21-0, but God, that Titans offense is terrible. Marcus Mariota hasn't been able to do anything this year. The offense has looked inept at all times. Their running back duo can't do anything. Corey Davis has had one good game. Marcus Mariota, he targets him constantly, still does not get enough catches. And this Ravens defense, regardless of who they were playing, they looked really good this week again.
Yeah, it was another, like we said, strong week for the Ravens defense and another ugly week for the Titans offense. Baltimore tied the NFL record with 11 team sacks this week. Just overall, they were a dominant defense, and I'll speak more to that later, but an important thing, our guest from last week, Savon, his prediction did not come true. Joe Flacco did not get hurt, and Lamar Jackson did not come in at quarterback. So we'll have to hear Savon's predictions some other time to see if he can actually get one correct. Now, the most exciting game from the NFL this week, the Kansas City Chiefs against the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. The Patriots narrowly outlasted the Chiefs.
Now, I don't have much to say on this game, as I never do on the Chiefs games, but this game went about exactly as I predicted it would be. Everyone knew it was going to be a shootout, 2 terrible defenses. Pat Mahomes had a really tough first half, 2 picks, no touchdowns, but he came back through 4 touchdowns and no interceptions in the second half. Tom Brady was Tom Brady, worked with what he had. Chiefs defense is at their bare bones. They had their 4th and 5th string safeties playing this week. Justin Houston was hurt. The Chiefs lost this game, but due to 3 Pat Mahomes overthrows in the first 2 drives that would have led to easy touchdowns, he's just a little too hyped up to play in Foxborough. Come playoff time, I'd take the Chiefs over the Patriots any day of the week, Foxborough or Arrowhead.
Yeah, it was exactly the type of game that was expected, 43-40 Patriots side. My prediction was wrong. I predicted no punts in this game. Kansas City did end up punting 1 time, so just off. But yeah, Mahomes and Brady both had good statistical games. We spoke to some Mahomes missed throws, but Mahomes still had 352 yards, 4 touchdowns, the 2 picks that were mentioned. Brady on his side, 340 yards and a touchdown. And then Sony Michel had a big game rushing the football for the Patriots, 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. For the Chiefs wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, he had a huge second half. Kept the Chiefs in it till the very end. He actually scored a game-tying touchdown with 3 minutes and 3 seconds left in the game, but that ended up being too much time to leave on the clock for the great Tom Brady as he hit a deep shot to Gronk to set up a game-winning field goal and secure the victory for the Patriots. An understated thing from this game, great kicking on both sides of the ball. Can't say that about pretty much. There's very few teams you can say had great kicking performances this week or this season at all, but these two teams both have reliable kickers, and that's important come playoff time.
In a game that was 43-40, not a single kick was missed the whole game. It was incredible to watch after the missteps of the entire kicking game of the NFL this year. So that was definitely a pleasure to watch. Last game on the slate, the Monday night game, San Francisco was beat by the great Aaron Rodgers in the last seconds, 33-30.
Yeah, and it was a great game, but before we get into that, I'm going to bring you, my Iowa football fan audience, my own segment of Hawks in the NFL. There were so many Iowa Hawkeyes in this game. On the Packers side of the ball, Josh Jackson, the rookie corner, Mike Daniels, the standout defensive lineman, and Brian Bulaga, the veteran right tackle. On the San Francisco side of the ball, C.J. Beathard at quarterback, George Kittle at tight end, Greg Maben, who I didn't even know who was on the team, but he's still there at defensive back. This is a great recruiting tactic that Iowa could use for football. Just watch this Monday night game and see 6 Iowa Hawkeyes on these teams battling it out. You got C.J. Beathard going against Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football. Who would have ever thought that was a thing? But overall, Iowa produces NFL caliber players, and this game made that clear. But now, getting into the actual game, C.J. Beathard continues to keep playing better than expected of him in his role as a backup quarterback. He hit deep shots to Marquise Goodwin, and Goodwin's return to the offense kept his connection with George Kittle rolling, but at the end of the night, it just wasn't good enough to beat Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field. Rodgers had 425 yards and 2 touchdowns, both to Davante Adams, and then at the end of the game, Rodgers led that incredible 2-minute drill-esque drive to march him down the field and set up a game-winning field goal from Mason Crosby, which made up for his horrible performance from last week. He made every single one of his kicks this week after the disaster that happened last week in Detroit.
I don't have much else to say on that game. He summed it up pretty well. Love to see all the Hawks playing in that game.
Now we move to our individual segments. We'll start it off with our performances of the week. I'll start this one off. My performance of the week was the entirety of the Baltimore Ravens defense. We spoke to how they dismantled the Titans. I said they had 11 sacks as a team, which tied the NFL record. They held the Titans to 106 total yards. Titans only got 2.6 yards per play and 7 first downs. In contrast, the Patriots on Sunday Night Football had 31 first downs. The Titans offense didn't get anything going, and that's because this Baltimore Ravens defense played out of their minds. They are my performance of the week.
My performance of the week, I had to go with Todd Gurley. 203 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground against what many thought coming into this year was one of the best defenses in the NFL from the past, the Broncos in Mile High. It was definitely surprising to see Todd Gurley do that. Obviously, everyone knows what kind of talent he is, but to see that type of performance out of him, I think performance of the week goes to him easy.
Next up, our stats of the week. My stat of the week goes with Mike Smith being relieved of his duties, or to just say fired as Buccaneers defensive coordinator. The stat reads, since 2016, when Mike Smith joined the Buccaneers as defensive coordinator, they have allowed 2,400-yard games, the most in the NFL. Buccaneers defense has not been good since Mike Smith got there as defensive coordinator. They have some players that are overly capable, such as Gerald McCoy, the standout defensive tackle, but they just haven't gotten a good scheme together, and that showed with Mike Smith getting fired.
My stat of the week, Julio Jones has 707 receiving yards this season, and he still does not have a touchdown. That's the most receiving yards ever in a season for a player to not have a touchdown pass. It's just incredible how he still does not have a touchdown. I mean, obviously he gets keyed on a lot in the red zone because he's Julio Jones, but still, how is he not broken free for a deep touchdown pass yet? It's just beyond me. If he doesn't catch a touchdown soon, I don't think he will the whole year. It's going to be crazy.
And we are going to continue to talk about that until he does, in fact, catch a touchdown. So just be prepared for that. Next up, our underrated performances of the week, and mine goes to a player that I would consider underrated overall. That's Davante Adams. Been the only reliable target for Aaron Rodgers this year. He had 10 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns this past Monday night against the 49ers. He's getting no recognition as being one of the top caliber wide receivers in all of football. He's overshadowed by Aaron Rodgers, but he's proved to be an insane weapon at wide receiver for the Packers.
Underrated performance of the week. It's actually been the last 3 weeks. Sony Michel has 112 yards, 98 yards, and 160 yards rushing in each of the last 3 weeks respectively, and 4 touchdowns in those last 3 games. For a team that's never had a running attack for Tom Brady, Sony Michel coming in and doing this for them is really someone that goes under the radar because everyone obviously focuses on Tom Brady. So I think Sony Michel is going to prove incredibly valuable come the end of the season when Patriots need to run the ball to run out the clock.
All right, next up, our surprises of the week. Mine was summed up pretty well earlier. The Dallas Cowboys' mediocre offense stomping the Jacksonville Jaguars and Saxonville. Not much else to add, but this Cowboys fans, think about it this way. This could be bad for you in the long run because it could give Jerry Jones an excuse not to fire Jason Garrett, and the clapping on the sideline could continue for years to come.
My surprise of the week, it's the Brockett ship. Against 380 yards and 2 touchdowns against one of the best defenses in football. I mean, they have 22 guys out there, so my surprise of the week, I went into the game thinking the Bears are going to blow them out like they did the Buccaneers a few weeks back, and then the Bears come in and lay an egg, and no, I'm not going to say Brock Osweiler tore him up. His 380 yards looks better on the stat sheet than it does in the actual game, but he did enough that he needed to do to win the game.
Dolphins are 4-2. We'll see where that goes from here. I think we keep saying every week that this is the time of year where the Dolphins show that they're really like a 5-11 team. We'll see. They've been winning games, well, except against the Patriots. Next up, our clowns of the week. Mine is pretty simple. He might have been one earlier this year. I've lost count of how many Bills have been on this list, but Nathan Peterman. How is this man still an NFL quarterback? We've spoken to his interception rate, 11%. He's a turnover machine. His teammates don't believe in him. He's just not a good NFL quarterback. Nothing against the guy, but he's just not good. Why does he keep playing? 2 interceptions again this week through the game, losing pick 6 for the Bills. Nathan Peterman, come on, man, get off the field.
My clown of the week is Mike McCoy and just the whole Cardinals coaching staff. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's often considered one of the classiest guys in football, and his dad is bashing them about the way they're using one of the greatest receivers of all time. They're not getting him the ball. The Cardinals offense looks inept, to use that word again. They look inept the whole season. Yes, they have a rookie quarterback, but you're not giving the ball to Larry Fitzgerald. David Johnson's just running the ball up the middle when in 2016 when he was so dynamic. He was such a great pass catcher. Use him to your strength. Adjust your system to who you have, not what you want your system to be. And that's my clown of the week. They have weapons on there, and the Cardinals continue to neglect to use them, and it looks bad for them. Don't worry.
All right, last little segment that we have for you today is our worst headline of the week. I'll start it off. My headline reads, quote, Booger McFarland says Packers need to be better on defense. Correct. They need to be better everywhere that isn't Aaron Rodgers or Devontae Adams. The roster has not played well overall this year. Aside from those 2 players, the coaching staff knows that. Everyone knows that this is a team on Aaron Rodgers' back, and it's been that way for a while. Let's see if that actually changes moving forward. I would be surprised.
My worst headline of the week, I thought this was comical. The headline read, Lane Kiffin offers scholarship to 11-year-old. And Lane Kiffin, the head coach at Florida International University, former Alabama coordinator and former USC head coach, offered a scholarship to Matt Leinart's 11-year-old son who's in 6th grade. Matt Leinart, former quarterback at USC, top draft pick in the NFL. His son is 11, he's in 6th grade, and Lane Kiffin offered him a quarterback scholarship. Obviously, Lane Kiffin's no stranger to offering small children scholarships, but this dude needs to chill.
Yeah, he's 11 years old. Let's have him, get into high school first or something. Next, we bring you our top 5 NFL power rankings for this week. I'll start it off. My number 5 is the Los Angeles Chargers. After the prototypical Chargers' slow start to the season, they've gotten things going on offense. Phillip Rivers has been very efficient, MVP sleeper for this season. Melvin Gordon's been great on the ground. Defense starting to come together. We'll see when they get Joey Bosa back. Pairing him with Melvin Ingram coming off the edges is dangerous. Derwin James looks like a Pro Bowl safety as a rookie. Team starting to come together. Hey, their kicker made all their kicks this week. Good for you, Chargers. Chargers at number 5.
I too have the Chargers at number 5. Their only 2 losses this year have come to the Chiefs and Rams, 2 of the top teams in football. So I don't think you can really count those. Obviously, you count those 2 losses as losses, but they're not bad losses like some other top tier teams have. So I have the Chargers at 5 as well.
My number 4 team, the New Orleans Saints, another team with a slower start this season that's coming on of late. Defense is looking a little better compared to the horrible defense we saw earlier against the Buccaneers. Drew Brees is Drew Brees. They have Mark Ingram back to pair with Alvin Kamara in the backfield. They'll be dynamic as they were last year. Saints, 4th best team in football in my power rankings.
I have the New England Patriots, my 4th best team in football. I mean, you look at them, they have all the offense. Defense shows flashes at times, but they have their pieces, but they just can't put it together. I mean, they're starting to get a running attack, like I said earlier, with Sony Michel, but I still have a whole lot of confidence in the Patriots until it comes playoff time. And then, watch out.
All right, my number 3 team in the power rankings, falling a spot from last week, is the Kansas City Chiefs after that narrow defeat in Foxborough to the New England Patriots. I didn't really lose any confidence at all about the Chiefs. We saw exactly what we saw the entire season: dynamic offense, poor defense. Mahomes missed a couple throws that ended up costing him, but Chiefs are still a dangerous offensive team moving forward. Chiefs at number 3.
Poor defense might be an understatement, but yes, I have the Chiefs at number 3 as well. I have them over the Patriots just for the simple fact of the Chiefs very easily could have and should have won that game. I mean, if we're doing power rankings, if they got a 1-game playoff and the Chiefs say they have their key players healthy by playoff time, I'm taking the Chiefs 9 times out of 10, regardless of where they're playing. So I have the Chiefs at number 3.
At number 2, I have the New England Patriots after the defeat of the Kansas City Chiefs at their hands this past Sunday night. The offense is starting to come together. Tom Brady finally has a good cast of weapons around him: Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, Gronk, the running backs, etc. But this is a Bill Belichick coach team. They're going to have their say come playoff time. Defense has done enough in their victories to get them the win, and I think that'll continue moving forward. I believe in Tom Brady. Patriots at number 2 right now.
I have New Orleans Saints as my number 2 team. I think their offense is actually almost underrated because of how well the Chiefs have done and other teams, Rams, Patriots, how well their offense has done. The Saints still have one of the best offenses in football. Like you said earlier, their defense is doing better. Still got a great offensive line. Michael Thomas had a few down games, but he'll bounce back. So I have the Saints at number 2.
And continuing to be at number 1, the Los Angeles Rams, for everything that's been mentioned in every podcast this year. They have a good offense, they have a good defense, they have a good special teams. If you need to know any more than that, just listen to past podcasts. Rams at number 1.
I have the Rams at number 1 too. That November 17th game in Mexico City against the Chiefs is starting to loom large as one of the most important regular season games of the year. So I have the Rams at number 1.
That wraps up our power rankings. So we'll finish today's episode with our Week 7 picks. Going back to last week, I was 10-5 in my picks and moved to 53-40 on the season.
I was an unfortunate 7-8 last week after my 3 upset picks fell flat on their face. So I am now 36-37 on the season.
So let's move into the picks for this week. On Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos traveling to Arizona to play the Cardinals.
I'm taking the Broncos. Von Miller said we're going to kick their ass, and I believe him.
Yes, I'm also taking the Broncos. Case Keenum's had kind of an underrated year at Broncos quarterback. I think he'll put up a good game against the Arizona Cardinals, and Rosen won't be able to keep up. Next up, the New England Patriots traveling to Chicago to play the Bears.
If last week wouldn't have happened, I would have picked the Bears, but last week did happen, so I am taking the Patriots on the road.
Yes, I'm definitely taking the Patriots in this matchup. Going to be dynamic on offense. Not sure the defense or Mitchell Trubisky will be able to keep up. Patriots are on to Cincinnati. Patriots win. Next game up, Tennessee Titans against the Los Angeles Chargers.
I think 100,000 people out of 100,000 people would pick the Chargers in this game, and I am part of that, and I am taking the Chargers.
Yes, I have no reason to believe the Titans are going to win this game. I am picking the Los Angeles Chargers and the reliable quarterback in this matchup, Phillip Rivers. Next game up, the Cleveland Browns at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm taking Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers to take this game from the Cleveland Browns at home.
I'm actually picking the Cleveland Browns to come in and beat the Buccaneers in Tampa. Mike Smith's gone. We'll see how the defense reacts to the new scheme, the new coordinator, whatever they end up doing. I think Baker Mayfield takes advantage of that and gets Cleveland a win on the road. Next game up, the Carolina Panthers after their crushing loss this week against the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm taking the Eagles in this game, and I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to keep up with their offense.
Yeah, Eagles have looked good on offense the past couple weeks. They keep that going. Eagles win this matchup. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings traveling to New York to play the red-hot offense of the Jets, Jets.
I am taking the Minnesota Vikings this one, and I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings in this one. Kirk Cousins will put up a lot of points. The defense for the Vikings will make Sam Darnold look like a rookie quarterback. Vikings win. Next up, Detroit travels to Miami to do what the Bears could not do, try to defeat the Dolphins in Miami.
I'm taking the Lions coming off a bye week here. I think they're going to come out and have a really good offensive day against this porous Dolphins defense.
Yes, I'm also going to take the Detroit Lions in this matchup. Like I said, they'll do what the Bears couldn't do when in Miami. Stafford will be thrown all over the Miami Dolphins defense, and maybe the Lions defense will be able to tackle Albert Wilson on screen passes. Next game up, the Buffalo Bills, led by Derek Anderson, going up against Andrew Luck and the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts in this game. If Josh Allen was starting, I think I would actually take the Bills in this game, but it's Derek Anderson, so I'm taking the Colts.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Colts. I believe in Andrew Luck, even if I don't believe in anything else on that team. Andrew Luck by himself will be able to beat the Bills this week. Next game up, a divisional matchup against two really questionable teams this season. The Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars to bounce back and have a good defensive week. The Texans' offense looked bad last week. I think they're going to get to Deshaun Watson a number of times, and I'm taking the Jaguars.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Jaguars. After that shellacking at the hands of the Cowboys last week, I think they bounce back and look like an actual NFL defense again.
Saxonville is back.
Next up, one of the best matchups from this week in the NFL season, the New Orleans Saints traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens and that defense.
I'm very excited to watch this game. I really think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch, offense versus defense, but I am taking the Saints in this game to come into Baltimore and beat the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Saints in this game. I just don't believe Joe Flacco and the Ravens will be able to put up enough points to keep up with them, even if it's not very many points due to that great Baltimore defense. But nonetheless, with those weapons on the New Orleans side of the ball, I'm taking the Saints. Next up, another divisional matchup in a rivalry game, the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins.
I'm taking the Redskins at home to take down the apparently hot Cowboys in this game. I just don't think the Cowboys are as good as they looked last week, so I'm taking the Redskins.
The Cowboys definitely are not as good as they looked last week, but nonetheless, I'm going to take the Cowboys. I think they got a little confidence from that game. They'll use that going into this matchup, and the Cowboys will win this game. The last Sunday afternoon matchup of this weekend slate, the Los Angeles Rams traveling to San Francisco to play C.J. Beathard and the 49ers.
I will be taking the Rams.
Yes, I'm also taking the Rams. No explanation needed. All right, our Sunday night football matchup, the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Arrowhead to play the Kansas City Chiefs, their second straight week on Sunday Night Football.
I'll be taking the Chiefs to have a good bounce-back week. It's very hard to win in Arrowhead, and I think that trend will continue with this game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs in this game. Dynamic offense will attack that Bengals defense, and the Red Rifle won't be able to keep up. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football, the New York Football Giants against the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm taking the Falcons this week. I think this is the week Julio Jones catches a touchdown pass. I am taking the Falcons, although I think about every week now we're just going to be saying that until he catches one, so I'm taking the Falcons this week.
I was also going to predict a Julio touchdown, but thanks for stealing my thunder. I'm taking the Falcons as well in this week. Big game out of Saquon. Nothing else is going to happen on the Giants side of the ball. Falcons get the win. Big game for Matt Ryan at home.
I'm fairly confident that you said that last week about him too against the Buccaneers.
We'll probably say it every... Well, who wouldn't think he'd catch a touchdown against the Buccaneers? They just fired their defensive coordinator.
Well, that wraps up our Week 6 recap, and that is this week's episode. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'll link that down below. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert. Thanks for listening.